Hello!
Hi!
Happy Friday, dude.
Very happy Friday.
So, who are you?
My name is Mike MacCombie, and I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Okay.
behavior science, puns,
You don't like
and
puns.
novel experiences.
I don't think you like puns.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit? What's the pun of the day? Do you have one?
Ooh. No.
Did I catch you unprepared with a pun?
I'm a very
just now?
limited partner right now in this punning competition.
All right.
And I say that just because we were pitching to a limited partner. Yeah, I gotcha.
Well, cool. For anybody watching, anyone listening, this is one of my favorite people in the world,
Cool.
and I don't get to spend enough time with him, so we've been going back and forth on having an interview about community. So for any entrepreneurs, freelancers, or any person who has an interest, a hobby, or a business, community is super important, and he's one of the best people I've seen do it, and I want to talk a little bit about your experience today with that. So jumping right into things, I want to take it back to 2016
Okay.
in December, when you and I were in Finland together at Slush.
Yeah.
So the picture I'm remembering off the top of my head is we're in the living room with that little tiny little router where we're all like have to be like 7 feet from it to like send messages and emails. And we're just chatting it up. And I think this was right after you got done with the influencers and like we were just talking about life and everything. And you're like, I'm gonna get into VC. I'm gonna start a VC firm. You had all these like big aspirations that you wanted to do. And to boot, you just finished a year before being a teacher of fifth graders at a charter school.
Yes.
So like, I'm a big dreamer. I'm excited about that. I just started my sales journey the year before. So I'm like, yo, let's go for it. And then it's 3 to 4 years later.
Yeah, 3 years
And
later, just about.
You are one of the most connected people in VC, as other people have dubbed you, which is
Wow, that's very
just
kind of them.
absolutely insane. So how does a person go from being a public school or charter school teacher, pardon me,
Both. I did both.
to being one of the most connected people in VC, building huge communities that are cross-country and maybe even will be international soon? Like, what does that look like? That's a heavy question, but just tell me about that, man. Like, you've grown so much in such a short time.
Well, thank you. It's still shocking for me. I still see myself as this, just I have a few friends and I like doing things and I bring people together. And then I remember, these things now exist. What the heck happened? The narrative is long and windy, but there's some things that I got started with. Why I'm here now is basically the entire time because I've built community and I love doing it. The original catalyst was actually November 8th, 2016.
Right before Finland.
Yeah. And that was also my dad's birthday. And also the 2016 elections. My dad's 70th birthday, I decided to fly out to Ohio, drive from the airport down to like this little in the valley hotel.
Shaker Heights you're from, right?
From Shaker Heights, yeah. Then moved to Chagrin Falls where I grew up, more like for the people who know Ohio. And I went there and I remember on November 8th, surprising my dad for his 70th birthday, and he was just, completely dumbfounded in the best, most loving way on the day that we had the 2016 election. And so I had this weird juxtaposition of there's happiness and there's weirdness and there's all. I said I don't know how to really format it in my head. But the next day I came away saying, wow, there was a lot of conversations that did not happen when we thought things were going one way and they went another. And so very transparently, I knew people that were forlorn or were crying and all that for the results. And I said, I don't agree with it, but I just want to get into action about this. And for the next 3 months, what I did was every 2 weeks, I launched a new community, Thomas Edison spaghetti against a wall style, to say what doesn't work and what does.
Give me an example.
So I did a really terrible Wednesday accountability Facebook online posty thing. I did Social Good Saturdays, which was an email newsletter where I sent out one nonprofit doing a great job to people on a consistent basis. One was The Underground, which was a community for underrepresented minority founders, which I very much found out about who you need to be able to run that.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That was a fun story.
Tell us, man.
But we put on a series of events for them saying, here are roundtables talking with friends that I had met overall. One of them was the alumni investment group for my alma mater, Brown University, because it didn't exist before. And my brother was a founder from Brown, who I wish he had been given the access to supporters and mentors and help for decisions that he didn't have the context that other people did. And one of them was this event that I launched on, I believe, January 10th, 2017, called Open Mic Night.
What's that, Mike?
Open Mic Night is, to give a little context though, The background was I recognized from the events that did well and the communities that did well, something was missing, and it was literally solving a problem. For people who were benefiting from it in a way they couldn't find elsewhere in a dramatically significant way. So I said, what are the events where people just need something different? And the theme was missing conversations. You know, I didn't think that, I got very sick of networking, and I very much distinguish between networking and sort of connecting.
I hate that word too.
I hate the word networking.
Why do you hate the word networking?
Because when I have networking, I think back to the times when I was coming out of teaching in 2015, and I met people and they said, hey, what do you do? And I said, I'm here for an event. I don't know. In my head, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm doing for my next job. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell to learn so I can figure it out. But to them, I had to come up with a story, and I had basically pitched them in 30 seconds, and they would either give me a business card and say, yeah, let's pick your brain.
Or download my app.
Or they'd say, great, nice meeting you, and they'd go away. And I'd say, you don't know who I am or what I've done or what I'm capable of.
Sure.
I hate this shit. And I also am an extrovert who hates superficial conversation. Like, I'd rather ask somebody, what's been on your mind lately? What's stressing you out? What are you afraid of? Like, those things I will ask way too early on in conversations, in dates. Like, I just love that because I hate superficial.
But you're interested. You can.
Yeah, I do. So long story short, I hated networking. I said, what happens if you just got really good people together and they acted as if they've been friends for months even though they don't know each other just because they're the best people?
So I want to take a step back from that, right?
Yeah.
So you have this idea.
Yeah.
You've had a number of communities of varying levels of success. So the first side is, how did you know you had a community that was like, oh, this is going well, and how did you decipher what piece of it was going well to then incorporate into other ones?
Yeah. I mean, it gets back to that thing we're saying, there's something different about this event. People are benefiting directly, and it's dramatic.
Okay, so define that. I remember reading, you're like, remarkability is a huge, what does that mean to you?
So when I say remarkability, I say you could go to a bunch of events that, frankly, people that I work with and consult with do. Fireside chats, panels.
Yeah.
They're inundated. People can go to one, hear the same interview that that person's given on their entire speaking circuit, and there's nothing really different. What I mean by different is you feel a different way. You have an emotion exposed in a conversation that didn't come up, whether it's safety, comfort, novelty, expression, being heard, being helped. But it's a way that you haven't had. So literally, what's the thing that isn't being addressed?
Sure.
Missing conversation or something. So I say that's remarkable in that sense. If you have an event where people say, I've never experienced that before, or
You've done something right.
That was better.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the knack of the feeling that you have as the ethos of the conversation. You go to a networking event, you meet some people, it's fine. But when you come away from just being around inspirational people, you say, I feel better.
Sure.
And so when an event has that, then I say, okay, that's the thing. When people keep coming back, when people ask when the next one is without you having to say, hey, please come to my event. When it gets to the point that you feel like you're giving people an opportunity rather than asking them to commit their time.
When did you feel you reached that with Open Mic Night?
I felt it for myself, the first one. So we had 10 people in the basement of Flatiron Hall on West 26th Street, I believe.
Yes, was 26th.
Yeah.
I came to number 2, I think was the first one I went to.
Yeah, I believe that. And
how many are you at now?
Number 46 happened last week.
And it's every month, right? Without fail, you haven't missed one.
Every month. The first year in August, I took one off.
Okay.
But it's every month in New York without fail, and every month now, every 5 to 6 weeks in LA and in SF.
Okay.
But I knew it was something when I felt it. I said, I am more inspired and buzzed by being around these people than I had before.
Feels.
Yeah.
It's something I want to kind of cover as well. Like, I'm a creative, I'm a musician, I do different artsy things, and sometimes I put that aside to work on business and whatever else that I have in my life, because you got to eat, right? And one thing I find, and has been very helpful for me in my creative journey, is it has to exist because I need it to exist.
Yes.
It has to scratch my back first.
Yes.
And that's how I can be really organic in what I'm doing, because I care first.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, so as an example, like, I hope people watch this. I hope somebody gets some value from it, but I'm curious about you. I don't get to see you enough, and I think this is a great way to uncover other things. And we have really deep and meaningful conversations every time we talk, and it's like, why don't we document this? I think there's something else that others can get. So like, I'm curious about it, and I want to do this in this way to share, and that's where it comes from first.
Yeah.
And if people get something, then that's great, and we can continue, but I'm just curious, and that's why I jump in. And I think that's how you scratch your own itch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, I wanted to meet people deeply. I wanted to be able to be my full self.
Sure.
And I also want to be able to get real.
Yeah, I think what's really funny in the startup space, That is so lacking.
Yeah. It's when I say missing conversation, I basically mean, when do you take off the mask? You say, I have to be networky because I'm always driving business, saying, when you take off the mask and get to meet people as real people, and it ends up being those are the people that you know and you do business with in a 5-second conversation 5 years later, rather than building a business development process.
Sure, yeah.
When do you get to say, I'm struggling and I need help, when you're supposed to have the mask of winning all the time?
Especially in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge gap.
And when do you get to have the mask of saying, I think what you do is stupid, to somebody who's on the other side of the table? We're doing an event series that we kicked off a month ago, where people could literally critique somebody that they normally sit on the opposite side of the table from. And so that's I say, awesome. Missing conversation is the same way of, when you take off the mask and have a context where you feel safe saying the real thing, instead of saying what you feel like you need to.
Sure.
That breath of fresh air is what comes from a missing conversation.
Yeah.
So that was the back of myself that I scratched. I got sick of networking. I got sick of having to say I'm winning all the time. So I built events around getting genuine, being able to share where you struggle. And I think one thing that's missing about building community in general is people say, I wanted people to know about my product. I'm saying, no, unless your product is the Midas Touch or something, or a Golden Goose, what you need to do is build a community where people get something that solves a problem for them.
Sure.
A community is basically a startup where you don't have tech, you have social capital, and you have context. And so I think about what are the problems that are happening because people aren't connected in the right way with the right folks in the right context. You're basically building a technology of that community and that event that builds it.
So 2 questions on that, right? So you got your first 10 people in the basement of Flatiron Hall, and you're like, hey, you're my close friends, let's get real together, right? What did that look like in creating that space for people to be like, hey, like, you probably know each other because we're all part of the same group, but like, hey, let's do this. Like, how did you push or nudge or walk people towards that place where it's like, hey, let's be vulnerable and like bring your friends?
Well, vulnerability is, there's another event I do specifically called the Vulnerability Breakfast, which I do twice a week. But this one, it's very easy when you know people really well to say, hey, just act like yourself. Because they're really good people, they're amazing. Then as you get further and further along the curve of, oh, more and more people come, how do I keep them at the same level of normative behavior so I put more and more guide rails on? So the first time I didn't have to do anything. I just said, let's get together and, just don't ask people what they do is the first question.
Yeah.
Talk about later, whatever. But then as more and more people came, I said, okay, I need to add in new rules. So
there's a lot of rules for anyone who's been to the event.
I've had people be intimidated by the emails that I send out beforehand. But one rule is people kept bringing business cards. I said, that's not what I want. So new rule, no business card. People said, who do I refer? And I got a couple random strangers and I said, okay, what was true about those people that made a difference? And I said, there's characteristics of their personality that matter. So I made a rule. The people must be 5 things. And it has to be true in your eyes or evident from their behavior. They have to be positive about themselves, pleasant towards others, independent of their context. They have to be interesting in some way, whether it's how they think, their sense of humor, their background, their context, their ambition. They have to be generous, meaning I'll help you just because you need help.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less. And they have to be open-minded. I'll go to an event from a stranger that has no guest list just because somebody said it's worthwhile.
Sure, same.
Yeah.
Same.
And so those 5 things, I had to put the rule in, you have to be those things. And then I put more rules in because I had a couple people flake. And I said, great, if you flake, that goes against the norm. So you don't get to come back. I've blacklisted 56 people out of 1,500 or so that I've hosted.
Okay, so that's a massive number. And there's interesting parts of Open Mic Night, well, many interesting parts. It was an offline event, and it's got an online component, which, you work in startups and everything else as well. That's the exponential factor.
Yeah.
When people who might not have been able to come to an event or come to multiple ones still get to interact and be a part of the community. How did you build that, and how do you maintain it now that it's at this, because I was there when it was 10 people, and now it's hundreds of people, and it's whoa, what the heck, right? How do you keep it as a community that gives people and keeps people coming back and doesn't lose what it is as it's grown? I'm sure that's a lot.
There's a few things that get terrible about big groups. You get terrible content, turns really shitty. You get random posters and you get a lot of noise, and you don't know how to control it. So I've done a few things. One is I built the online community because I thought, you just should be able to interact with more than just the 2 people you met that night. And I also said, if I'm not giving you business cards, you need a way to follow up.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let you find them on Facebook in the group. But in terms of keeping it strong, I think there's 3 things that come through. One, you have to keep the integrity of the promises you make about the group. You have to keep it pure to the intention that you have. And you have to be active and recurring. So when I say integrity, I mean, if I say a few things I did in the group, I set norms for there's only 4 types of posts allowed. It has to be either a give, something you're offering to the community that's unique, not obviously accessible, and not publicly known. An ask, something that's non-monetary, can be helped by multiple people, and is not just an ask for bodies to vote for you on a platform.
Yeah.
Thanks, which is just a genuine thank you if you want to recognize somebody. Or experiments. You're building something new. You don't know what you need, but hey, if somebody wants to get involved, let me know. I moderate every single post that goes through that group. If it does not match the formatting, if it does not match the rules, if it does not match the type of post, I don't let it through. And so I keep the integrity of the group by saying there will be no noise, and I have to ensure it. One of the things I've seen as a demarcator of people that are successful in building community is if they say X is true, it will not be, oh, 90% of X is true, not 95. If I said it is that, my only option is that that is what is the outcome. If I say it's only for positive people, I cannot let somebody who's a downer in. If I say you must be a mature founder who's raised a Series A, you must be a founder who's raised a Series A. No exceptions.
Yeah.
Whatever you promise, a brand is a promise. When you see me, here's what you will experience and what I think you will have experienced going forward consistently. Break one promise and you're going to break more.
Sure.
And then lastly is, I think of what the structure is that's helpful for people. If I just say you can post about anything,
Then you get nothing, really.
Yeah. People engage with something that there's the brand and the promise that it's worth their time every time. If it's moderated posts that are well curated for something that's unique and differentiated, they'll come back. If it's the same thing they've seen on 15 other platforms saying, hey, vote for my thing or get a ticket to this thing for $5 off, no.
It's not really worth anything. So then question 2, right? So it started out with hitting up the friends, people you like and love, come check this out, this is what I'm working on. And then how did you grow it to its first, like what was the first event you did where you're like, wow, shit.
Oh shit, this is a thing.
This is a thing.
It was probably number 10 or number 11.
So you've been doing it basically a year already before it really got to a point.
7-8 months. When I started off, I tried doing it weekly, and it wasn't rare enough.
Okay.
If it was weekly, it's like I can go next week. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
So I moved it to
important. Add rarity and exclusivity in that regard with the things you build.
It has to be unique. Like if you just say, "I'll do it every Monday," unless it's something that is small and curated for 5 people. Like I do the vulnerability breakfast every Monday and Friday, but it's only 6 people.
Yeah.
But for this one, I said it's got to be rare enough because, it's a slightly broader value proposition to people who attend. But it hit me when I said, I don't have to source and find new people every time to keep it at the same size, where it's literally just growing because I invite the same people and they invite friends. So every time I host it now, it's about 50-50, new people and old people.
Yeah.
And I don't have to really find 400 new people to invite to get people to show up. I just send out the email to the same group, and I always have a new 50, and 50 of those people come through. And so when it becomes a self-sustaining flywheel of, I am not struggling to find those 15 people, and therefore I need to reach out to 15 different Facebook groups to get people to attend, but I just send my email and they show up. That's when you get to a point of sustainability.
Nice.
So if you find that you're hosting an event and you have to work your butt off to fill the seats, then either it's still building, which is fine, which I had to do, or you don't have something valuable enough.
Chances are it's both.
Yeah.
Huh. So one thing I'd love to ask you about,
Quest.
and when we've been at varying events, I was like, yo, dude, how do you remember everybody's name? And my favorite answer from you was just like, I give a shit. And I was like, ugh, that really like hit me in the gut for a second. I was like, ugh. I'd love for you to unpack that, because I get intuitively what that means.
Yeah.
But like I'm talking about, we'll be at open mic night and you say every person by name, like when you see them. And I'm just like, what the hell? This is insane. And you have a full-time job and you do 25 other things. What does that mean to you, and how do you practice that on a daily basis?
So the reason I give a shit is a community is a place where you feel like you belong. And you don't belong if you've been there twice and then somebody doesn't know that you've been there. You matter enough to factor into their head that, oh, you are a person that has attended. You matter to me, so it matters that I do that. I'm also a former teacher, so not knowing a person's name instantaneously makes them feel like a stranger.
Sure.
But I think it really was, I felt embarrassed if I couldn't remember somebody's name. And I would tell them, I am so sorry, I do not want to do this again. Would you please remind me of your name? It's literally showing that they matter enough that you don't want to get it wrong.
Okay.
And so I truly, genuinely, internally feel embarrassed if I can't remember somebody's name. Because then I say, Stefan, and you're like, did this person know me? Who am I? So it's a truly internal thing. I am fearful that somebody won't come back because I made a mistake that I could have controlled. I can control remembering somebody's name, or I can control how I frame it. I will say, I tell some folks, especially if they're white men, like, I got a white guy problem. I can't remember white guys' faces. It's very hard for me to differentiate.
So you say they all look the same?
No, I'm just saying I have a white guy problem. It's harder for me to do that. So I have to find something distinguishing. But it's also my excuse, because then I feel like, very transparently, white guys are privileged enough.
Mike, Joe, Brett, all right, Todd, John.
But they can deal the most with not being seen or heard.
Okay.
So I force rank to say, of the 30% of my events that are white male, or 30% of my attendees at an event, they'll survive. So I can focus on the other ones. I still try to remember everybody's name, but it's a funny joke I have just to say, like, look, you matter, but this is a place where everybody matters a little bit, more equally. But there's some things that I do to remember it. One, there's a lot of lessons I've learned from language acquisition and memory, just from teaching and from being a geek for behavior science. My favorite story is one about two parents who I believe worked at Twitter, but I will not make my claim based on that. I just know they worked in somewhere, maybe sociology, something social, lingual related. They had a new child, and they decided to say, how does our child acquire and learn the words that they do? Because we said, why do they remember mama and dada versus this or that, or if it's beyond the first words, what makes a word stick? And they follow the child around, literally marking where, what context, what conversation, each of those words the child's first utterances were. And they found there was a huge density of some words. One of them was the word water. Now, most people would say, oh, yeah, just because you say water all the time. But there were other words that were said with the same level of repetition, but with less memory in terms of when they acquired the word. So, and this was also not just the child, but when the parents would use it. So you might say water and book and phone the same number of times, but water was acquired first by the child in terms of using it commonly because of the fact that it was the number of different contexts in which that word was said.
Sure.
So they might be referring to water as ice cubes, as rain outside, as in the faucet, as in the sink, as in the glass, as in the bowl, in the bathtub, in the pipes, in the
lake,
toilet.
Yeah.
There were so many more different contexts in which the word water was thought of, that if you thought of anything, you're more likely to think of water than anything else. It's actually the thing I like to think of is memory is kind of like, have you ever seen one of the early terrible Spider-Mans, sorry, Tobey Maguire, where he's on the front of the train holding all the train from going off the edge of the construction railroad, or the rails, and he tried shooting one web at each building and they just broke. And so what he had to do is he had to shoot 15 more webs on either side until it caught so many buildings that they just couldn't break. Long story short, between the Spider-Man story and water is I remember names because I put them in as many different contexts as possible in terms of how I remember it and the story behind it. So when I meet somebody, I will remember what place they were in the bar, what they said, what their clothing was. I will say their name verbally, and I'll have them write their name, and I've seen their name in email. And I will also ask them to introduce themselves to somebody else and something else identifying.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying, here's your name, I say, here's 15 different ways I've seen your name, and I give myself that many more webs to hold on to and remember their name. So I forget when they wrote their name in the notebook. I remember I saw them at this time at that bar.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I met Catherine the first time at Amity Hall, she was nearby the bar in a dark blue dress. She asked me about some deep questions from what I had said. And when you weave all of those questions together, she also told me that she wrote a blog on the side. I remember her stories about things she mentioned about her parents and moving back and forth to New Jersey. It's all because I just chose to remember the whole set of contexts, and together it makes a narrative.
Sure.
Like, I think it's way easier to remember nonfiction, or way easier to remember fictional stories than nonfiction, because there's a single narrative that everything attaches to. So, long story short, a lot of context in building a story out of it and building an image.
I've heard say a name 7 different times is when you remember it. So if you
But if you say the same 7 different times, saying it verbally, it won't be the same as if you see it written, on email, mentioned,
profile.
Put a geographic extent to it. Yeah, and also I add people on Facebook and I add them to a thing, so I see their names so many times.
So you're in a lot of communities, you work a full-time job, you're building some investment stuff, you're building all the things that you talked about you wanted in Finland. How do you manage that?
Sleep.
He's like, "So I don't sleep."
No,
Yes.
no, but I think one is, very transparently, I've worked every weekend for the last 3 months,
Okay.
and I'm okay.
But you love what you do, so
Yeah.
that helps.
And also, some of my work is just fun. If I'm putting together open mic night, it's basically a big friend reunion. So I enjoy it, and I do it, and it's worthwhile. So first is, I don't have a lot of break time, but my work time is my fun time. So it's the whole thing, finding something that you enjoy so much that it feels like work and play are the same thing.
Sure.
I do. Like, I can put on a vulnerability breakfast and get personal group therapy for challenges I'm going with, help other people, build an event, build a community all in one. I just say,
And eat at the same time.
yeah. Breakfast. But I've synthesized so many things that I fit basically 3 professional work lives of 40 hours each into 80 hours of work, because they combine, and it's fun work, so it's not as crazy. There's a couple other things I have to do, though, to make it work. One is I am kind of brutal in my force of priorities of how I respond to people communication-wise. I don't respond to every email.
It's impossible.
Actually, no, I respond to most emails, but I'm very, very slow. I have a tiered hierarchy of how I respond to things. I search my email by batches according to a keyword.
Okay.
So if I invite people to open mic night, I literally just search the open mic night invite title, and I answer all those emails. Then if I send out an invite to a vulnerability breakfast, I just search vulnerability breakfast in my email. So I make sure I cover my shit that I promised I would do.
Tags. Yeah.
And very frankly, when I get free time, I respond to the intros and I respond to all that. But I also tell people text. If they know me well enough to send a text, I have an inbox 0 on text messages and an inbox thousands of thousands in my email. I'm actually working on a tech platform that will be in the middle of those two that I think will help manage that. That's
Stay
for another
tuned.
time.
Stay tuned for
Stay
that.
tuned. Probably Q2, Q3 next year.
Nice.
But also, I've used the resources I've built to help build more resources. So my community is 1,500 people that are extremely generous, have goodwill towards me, and
2 minutes.
so
Go ahead.
oh yeah, and so I would say, how do I help them help me? I have people that are helping me. Well, literally, one person from the community recently offered to answer my open mic night invite emails for me.
Wow.
Because they value it so much. I've had graphic designers that have worked with me. Catherine actually worked with me on our summit that we just did, and I brought her in without having to search for somebody else. The number of times that the community has helped me do things faster, save searching for people, it is ridiculous. I've had deals sent to me. I've found people to fill an event because I put out one email to my community. Hey, I need help. Great, well, I'll help you. Oh, it's done. Great.
Yeah.
And so if I was doing it on my own and I didn't have this mesh, I wouldn't be able to do all the work I do. But I don't mind spending the hours because I enjoy it. And I have found a way to get the value to circle it back on upon itself. And the community helps grow the communities, which helps grow the communities.
Got it. Let's pause there and reset the camera. And we're millennials. We need phone time.
Oh, well, I do get a lot of text messages, so I do have to check those.
Yeah, you're busy as hell, man.
After one of the open mic nights, it's usually about 60 text messages I got to take care of. Kind of brutal sometimes.
I wrote a bunch of questions for you.
Yes. Can I ask you a favor?
Yeah, whatever.
Purely so I can remember my answers to them.
Absolutely.
I'm working on developing a mastermind group this year.
Okay.
Oh,
Great idea.
whole
Yes,
other
we talked
thing.
about this.
But I want to. Those questions help me remember the answers that I gave, so I can format like my frameworks.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is going to be recorded and typed out as text.
Amazing, and that. So like the questions.
Whatever you need, man.
Thank you.
It's all here together.
Gracias.
You're welcome.
Cool.
All right. So how do you decide what's next for you? Or does it come and bubble out of the community and be like, there's something?
It's 3 things. 1, where do I hear the need?
How do you listen for needs?
Well, I first of all have the conversations with people finding out what they need. So I listen deeply of, what's one of my favorite questions is what's been on your mind lately? And that's a really easy way to gather what people need. Oh, I was in SF last month, and a venture capitalist, she said, yeah, I've been looking to find someone to date that's not weird. And I said, oh, good to know.
You just put her out on an open mic night?
Well,
She's looking for dates.
Well, the event happened, and at this point, I asked people, what needs do you have? And she actually said, hey, I'm trying to find someone normal to date. And somebody responded back saying, I got someone for you. And I think they got set up on a date.
Wow, how about that?
But I hear it enough. And I hear people saying they want to make money. I hear people saying that they want to get involved in investment. Or I hear founders asking to fundraise. So I say, let's put together an investment group. Let's put together a dating event that's fun, differentiated, and makes people feel better for being there. Mm-hmm. Let's put together a founders group that people can be inspired by each other. So I literally am just hearing what they need, and I build it.
Yeah.
The challenge is getting to a place where people tell you generally what they need, having the trust of them that when you build it, it's worthwhile, which comes back to that whole point of keeping your promises and your integrity. Because when you launch something new, you got to be somebody that they trust to do it well. So when I launch a dating event, I haven't had a girlfriend in a year, although I'm dating right now. So I can't say I know dating. I've not been a matchmaker. But they trust that I'm not going to let it fall.
But you know people and you care about people, and that's kind of the thing that's missing in a lot of communities and dates and stuff as well. So
one point on that I've been struggling with, and that is what I think helps me, but I also need to figure out, is I don't charge for my events. The biggest downfall I've seen of communities is they try to scale too fast because they want the notoriety, or they try to charge so they can make it their self-sustaining thing.
Sure.
Every community I've seen where they say, I don't really know about them, it's because they've charged a ridiculously high price point.
What's a high price point?
Well, it depends. There's one where it's a female founders group, and they charge thousands of dollars to post a job in it. And I say, that seems pricey.
It does.
But that person, that's their full-time job.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have an answer to it. I'm figuring it out myself. But I think money can skew incentives, because then it changes who you invite. It changes how you're trying to get to it at the end.
People feel entitled because they pay for things sometimes.
It's also exclusive to some people who just say, not that they can't afford it, but they're like, I'd rather not pay $25 to go to an event.
Sure.
And I'm very proud of the fact that I think it's 31.9% of our events are attended by white males, and it's 68.1% are not white male. So I say, I don't want that to become a reverse.
Okay.
But long story short, find a sustainable way to make money that feels super congruent and not dissonant.
Gotcha.
You were saying, sorry.
No, I'm just asking tons of different questions. And we've kind of talked about this too. So for anybody listening or watching, I think part of the integrity of your group is that it has been free and you're just completely giving to people.
But it has made me a good amount of money, actually.
I'm sure it has, right? Because it's organic and you're really helping people. We'd kind of talked about some ways, this is another reason I wanted to sit down and speak with you too, right? So I do consulting and coaching and work with startups and freelancers and other things. And you need to build a lot of trust with those groups in order to be able to get people to tell you what their real issues are, right? So we're kind of talking about the way that you've been able to do it is amazing, right? You were a teacher. Years, less than the amount of digits on your hand ago, in years, you're doing something completely out of the realm of this space. Mm-hmm. And you just we talked about it on the couch in Finland, and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, go for it, let's see what happens. And sure enough, here you are. And I think with that, that's something that you can teach people to do in a very organic and real way, because you've done it in an organic and real way. Yeah. And again, you don't have to be like, hey, now this is what we're doing in the group. It can be more for people who are interested, I'm starting this thing. Mm-hmm. And if someone's interested, this does have a cost to it, but it's very personal, it's very small, and I'd love to share that with you. And you could talk about the tactics and the ups and the downs, and you could do a breakfast around that, right? And that's completely honest, it's on brand. Yeah. It's direct. And the people who want it are going to be the people who are going to spend the money to do that mm-hmm. anyway. So I think you're fine there. You don't really make a lot of asks.
No, I very much am. I am hyper aware of. I don't like to ask for something that I can handle myself.
Sure.
Or something that feels like it's too much, because I've gotten such a benefit from people who just feel an overwhelming want to give back. I don't feel like I've cashed in any social capital checks or whatever by asking too much. By not asking, a lot of serendipity comes my way.
Yeah.
And so I'm very hyper conscious about that. But in terms of two things, one, the asking and putting money out there as a thing, I always make it opt-in. I say, look, if this is valuable enough for you, let me know. I believe very much in the beacon approach. You remember I Am Legend, where Will Smith would say, I'm going to be on the piers at 12 p.m. every day with food and water. If you need some, come find me. And so I just say, look, what's the beacon that's going to draw people towards you? Don't say, hey, I need to fill this group. Can you please send people in? That's exactly how you go to a scarcity mindset. If your beacon is not strong enough, you won't get it. But if it is, people will come. And then you feel completely at ease because you're giving them an opportunity they would pay for on their own.
Yeah. And this is the Empire State Building for anyone watching, and it's creaking like crazy.
Oh, no, that's just the poltergeist that I pissed off.
It's the poltergeist.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's him leaning back on his rocking chair right now. He's like, yeah.
Is that exclusive to this office, or is that somewhere throughout the building?
It basically follows me wherever I go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need to find some puns on that.
Yeah. You can be the chairman of that committee.
So what for you is the marker of you finally having succeeded in what you're doing?
So I actually think I look at it a different way.
Tell me.
I think a lot of people have goal-oriented, I am successful when I hit this goal.
Sure.
And you know what happens when you meet that goal?
You're empty. And
You're
you have
empty
nothing else
and
to go for.
existentially like, okay, I am rudderless.
Yes.
So my way of saying is I have goals along the way. My aim is to have a process that I fall in love with for the rest of my life. My process that I push myself making bold decisions and learning things I didn't know before. I remember my favorite paper I did in class in college was an existentialism class where they said there's two big struggles. There's one that things are too difficult and you don't get to do something you've wanted to do and therefore you feel depressed because you can't do it. And then there's feelings when you accomplish it and you're depressed because you did it and there's nothing more to struggle against. And so the best thing is an ongoing struggle in life that you're always building,
Sure.
that never ends, but is always challenging you enough that you feel successful doing. So I say, for example, building a community, having a child, building a business, creating things that last, like developing talking points or having a book or having something that lives beyond you, that grows. Or a relationship, because you're not done with a relationship.
It's always evolving.
Yeah, it's interesting because it evolves. So I know I'm successful when I continue to get to do this thing every single day, and I'm continuously excited. I signed up for the LA Marathon 3 weeks ago on a whim, and we'll find out how that goes.
When's that?
March 8th in LA.
It's my birthday.
Woo!
National Women's Day.
Oh, wow. I gotta, well, we have an alignment there.
I will send the love.
And because of that, I will not forget your birthday now, because it will always be attached to that context. But those are the things. And so success for me is continuing. I have some big goals that I know I'll get closer and closer to. I want to build the easy way of saying the most generous community in the world. What I want to say that's truest is I want to build a community that the members feel the most agency to live out their biggest goals and ideas without constraint because they're a member of that community. I want to build a community where people feel most empowered to do the things they want to because they know they have an entire support community behind them. Like I did when I started this, or when I needed help on the biggest challenges I've had this year. I want that to feel true for as many people as possible, and to be something that is continuously flowing back, that makes people feel the same joy that I get when I get help, that I see myself feeling when other people get help too.
Nice. Have you read that book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck?
I have not yet. I'm severely underread. That's the one thing I've had to sacrifice in building.
Well, you could get the audiobook maybe. But
it's not enough context because it's only audio. I don't get to see it and read it.
That's fair. However, the reason I bring that book up is he kind of covers that exact same point of having a goal of like, I want to make this much money. Once you get that money or you get that house or you get that car, you're just like, what now? And it's very empty. But saying like, I want to meet good people and create a better and larger place for more people to have something better isn't something that has an end to it. It just iterates and changes the way you can add value, and it has different problems. There's an expression like new level, new devil.
Yeah,
So
bigger
as
problems.
you level up, right, you get different situations. So your group's way larger and it's in different cities, and it's like, okay, like, how do I manage this, right? But
You're successful when you get better problems.
Absolutely.
I think somebody told me I had an open mic night. Find better problems. That's
Find
what you
better
gotta do.
problems. And that, I think that book would really benefit you because it's really short. That's number one. And then
I don't want to sound like a certain presidential office, like, I just need bullet points and photos, and I'll look at them. Like,
it's true, though. You can get the cliff notes of it. But basically just says you need to choose very, very stringently what it is you allow to take up emotional and mental bandwidth. Because there's always going to be something. But you have a finite amount of fucks to give.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, all of us... all of us...
that was me
You just
grabbing the
took a
fucks that I gave. I took a fuck for the fuck that I gave.
They float in the air sometimes, so you got to find them. You have a finite amount of fucks to give, and a lot of us get bogged down with the really mundane things that have nothing to do with where we're going. So we live in New York City, one of the most stressful cities to live in, even though we don't realize it. Like, you have to get to a meeting and somebody's walking slowly. Like,
Slow walkers.
They are the bane of my existence some days. And it's like, why do I care about that? There's a couple of reasons. It's like people aren't paying attention to what's going on around them. That's a whole other side. But it's like, why did I give that much angst and energy to this thing that I'm not in control of, and I just need to figure out how to get past, right? Yeah. So that book really outlines some great things you've probably felt, just may not have been able to express fully in clear and crass words, because he curses a lot and he talks about sex and stuff in the book.
I can deal with fucking language in a book.
There you go. So it's really approachable. That's how I would say it. But definitely worth the read. And you've already intuited one of the main points of that, which is find and set goals that are not finite but continue to feed you.
Or you could set finite goals, but you can say...
They're markers, though.
Yeah, it's like I have...
It's progress.
I had 4 goals for this year. And I said I want to accomplish 3. Yeah, great. And then I have next year's goals, and I have the years after that.
Every year I've accomplished my main goal.
What was your main goal for this year?
Don't die.
That is
So far, so good. Still I'm on my way.
And when you fail the goal, you won't know.
There you go. So I can't lose that one.
That's an ongoing problem.
That's an ongoing one.
That's a good one.
I got that from my brother. Shout out to Mark.
Yeah.
Hey, so what's really top of mind for you right now?
So the biggest things for me is, one, finding a balance.
What does that mean, balance?
I haven't gone on, not saying you need to go on a date regularly, but like for 2 months I was working on a summit and I hadn't gone on a date for 2 months. I'm very fortunate that I met somebody who I went on a date with 2 months ago. We've been in contact for 2 months. We're going out for a second date on Sunday.
Nice.
And we're still super excited to see each other.
That's awesome.
Super rare.
Which speaks to the capacity to keep people interested, warm them up, engaged, and excited.
Yeah.
That's important.
And 2 is scaling. Like,
Scaling what?
So scaling sustainably in a bunch of ways. Like scaling how much capacity I have to do more events beyond myself. So I literally want to build groups amongst my community of a leader for the dating event, a leader for our vulnerability series, a leader for our, quick talk, Pechakucha kind of style thing. And so they're saying, okay, how do I build this out a little bit so I can be in the hub and just have all these spokes there? And I think it's also finding a balance to do the things that still are on my mind. Like my goals for next year, and I don't usually share them publicly, but one, I want to be able to touch my toes. No, but I want to be able to touch my toes with my legs straight. I'm an extremely inflexible person physically.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, it's very bad.
Wow.
Yeah. I used to get tight lower back muscles to the point where I had to miss school when I was younger.
I ran track in college, and I was the most flexible person, men and women on the team.
You had a leg up on everybody.
I did.
Yeah.
I could literally bend down and put my palms on the floor.
I need to learn your ways.
Yeah.
So doing that, I'm running a marathon. I want to have a talk that I want to do a paid talk, not because I need the money, just to prove that it's valuable.
Sure, that feels so good.
Oh yeah.
It feels so good.
And I got a couple other things, but
internationally? Because I know you've spoken
I've spoken internationally.
Ghana, right?
I've spoken in Ghana, I've spoken in Haiti, and I've spoken in Canada.
Okay.
Canada was paid, Ghana and Haiti was expenses paid, but no shorter for the thing. But I basically want to build an idea or a framework valuable enough that it means something to people that much.
What would you want to talk about?
I'm still figuring it out, but I want to say, because very transparently, I've seen a lot of community building books. They're fine, they're good, but it's stuff I already do.
Yeah.
I want to say, what's a new approach on community building that hasn't existed before? What's like, just like a community? What's different? What's valuable? What makes people better?
Yeah.
And so I've transparently, I don't want to say I'm going enterprise, but I've seen a lot of businesses struggle with how do you build the same idea of you're not running a sales process, but you're the person that's going to be front of mind for everybody when they think of you. So like community-driven lead gen. Like community-driven.
But it is a sales process, right?
It
is a sales process. It's just a real human version of it.
Yeah.
Right. And like that's another reason. Like I do sales. I teach people sales. I talk to people who want to sell. Yeah. And I don't know if I probably ever told you this, but the reason I got into sales, it's not that I love flipping software and whatever or anything or services at all. It's first of all, I like helping people, but the reason I got into it is when I graduated college, 2009, peak of the recession, horrible time in everyone's life. Yeah. There's no jobs, and I was a professional photographer at the time, and everyone's a photographer. Instagram was out. Like, I didn't have my network in New York at all, and my parents were involved in that area. So I'm applying for jobs every single day, online for hours and hours, getting no hits, don't know what to do, and then 5-6 months pass, and my student loans are coming up, and I want to pay them off, and I'm putting it here on camera. I will have them paid off for my birthday by the time you're racing. So that's like such a huge load off, and I'm like excited about that. But anyway, my loans were coming due, and I had no work, I had no prospects, and I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So my eldest brother was like, well, if you just need some work, why don't you just go around the restaurants and bars and start asking for work? And I was like really upset that I had to do this. For college education, like I have to go ask for a bar job, right? Yeah. Like to clean something up. And I was like so much ego involved in that. So then I printed up some resumes. I'd worked at restaurants as a college student and at other points in my life. Printed up a bunch of resumes, went down to Williamsburg, and then I just literally like sat outside of a restaurant, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want anything. I checked my email, and I'm like, can someone just get back to me? And then I was like, nobody's going to get back to you until you make people get back to you, right? So bit the bullet and like was really nervous and dropped the resume down. I was like, do you need anybody? And then I went on to the next restaurant, and then that day I went to 10. I was like, okay, it's not that bad. Next day I went to 10 or 15, so on and so forth for that week. And by the end of the week, I had 2 or 3 jobs. People were like, hey, yeah, we need somebody. Very unglamorous work. I call that my character building time. But that taught me you have to put yourself out in front of things you want. That's the first lesson. So second lesson was I was working at this bar in Williamsburg called the Charleston. It is still there. It's on North 7th in Bedford.
Okay.
And they had a Southern themed restaurant as part of the bar. So you could buy like shrimp and lots of fried foods. And I would work there on Sunday nights, starting at 8 till 4 in the morning. And you get like a regular wage and you get tipped out at the end. And part of my job was to take out the trash. So one of these particular days, I'm literally wearing my Wake Forest athletics shirt. I'm wearing track and college, as I mentioned, wearing my shirt, like some grimy stuff, so I could just go take the trash out. And I do it the first moment I get in the bar, so I can just chill and like not feel gross. Because when people are around, if it gets full, it's horrifying to move through with huge tails of trash. So I go out into this alley, which has a shelf where you put like empty beer bottles. It's a long story, but I'm telling you. Empty beer bottles, and then it has this big 55-gallon drum of spent fryer oil, and then a very thin alley where there's 6 trash cans lined up, and it's full because it was a weekend. So Friday they don't take out the trash, Saturday they don't take out the trash, Sunday during the day they don't. So I'm in there and I'm like, all right, get the first 2, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and get to the 6th, and this one just won't come out of the trash can. I'm just like, yo, what the hell? Pulling as hard as I can. I'm like, I'm almost done. I can chill. I can have a beer, like whatever. And it won't come out. And I was like, all right, just stretch a little bit, get in my stance, and I just pull as hard as I can on this thing. And someone had thrown away a handle of empty liquor into the trash can. And that edge hit the 54-gallon drum of oil, and it went over onto me and into the bar. And you imagine just like the heat.
Wait, it burst open or
fell over? And just poof, all in this bar, all over the floor, started leaking down to the basement. I'm covered in oil. It's oil all over the place. And I'm just, you imagine that heat when you really mess up, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was all of that. And I couldn't quit because I didn't have anything else. I had nothing else. And I was like, just so mad and like, it just didn't have anything to go do. So in that moment, I was like, all right, this sucks. I'm going to have to clean this up. I'm going to have to figure this out. But it's like, I'm going to have something. Yeah. I'm going to have something. And for me, sales is agency, right? It's the complete ownership of where you are, of what you want, and doing what it takes to get that. It doesn't have to be cheesy and forcing people to do things. It can be very genuine. And I think what I hate about sales is that it's this sleazy thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like it shouldn't be. It should be relationships. It should be communities. It should be organic and very real, which again, you've inspired me because you do that in a very real and organic way. You're not selling something directly necessarily. You're selling yourself. It's like, hey, this is what I'm interested in.
Oh, I have my Saturday nights in the red light district. That's a different story.
Sure. That's why. That's another reason I'm here. You should check them out. Profile will be in the link below. But that's the type of thing where I say, that's interesting to me, and that's something that I want to emulate, and I want to pick the brain on, and I want to learn more, because that's something that really a lot of people can learn from. And I think if in some years, that's the type of narrative that's put out there, that profession can be something that's not dirty and scary, but can be something that people are like, oh, wow, that's really cool that you do that, right? Because good salespeople, you remember them because they give you the agency to make your own decisions and empower you to be better at what you are. And for anyone who's thinking about sales or selling anything, yes, it's a little scary getting rejected, but the fact that you have this agency of, I can just take some actions and move things forward and really build something for myself is something that fascinates me. And that's why I do what I do, because I just wanted to have something. I didn't want to feel that powerlessness.
Yeah.
And I'm getting closer to that every day, but that's a nonstop journey for me as well. So I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Vulnerability breakfast is rubbing off.
What got you to move to Spain, I think, if I recall correctly.
Not Spain.
Oh,
not Spain. Mexico.
Yeah.
I did. So we did a vulnerability dinner in 2017.
Would have been late late fall 2017.
Late fall 17, which shortly thereafterwards, my vulnerable moment in there was that I really wanted to move out of New York or spend some significant time out of here, and I was afraid because my family's, my parents getting older, blah blah blah. Excuse. And there were like 25 people there who weighed in on this thing, and they were like, "Yeah, why don't you just do this and like don't think about it in such finite terms?" And it's like, you're right. So then, almost immediately, booked a trip to San Francisco, and then came back to New York, and then went to Peru, Ecuador, lived in Germany, lived in Mexico City, lived in Bulgaria and Athens, all within the span of 3 months. And I was like, this isn't that difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You just make this stuff challenging for yourself. But again, that goes back to bringing your problems to a community of people that can at least hold your hand while you logic yourself through these weird emotional times. And again, thank you for that. That was really, really helpful. Yeah. How about you? Ask me some questions if you're interested in asking questions.
Okay. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, sometimes it's success.
Why?
Because I think there's a when you wake up in the morning or when you're like half daydreaming, you think about like on the couch in Finland, you're like, I want to be this person who does that, right? Like some of the places where you are and some of the things you're still aspiring to get to, there takes a certain very raw honesty with oneself to compare yourself to where you want to be. That sometimes can be very jarring to own. It's like, all right, well, I have to commit to this. And commitment is a hard thing for anybody, I think, depending on what you're committing towards, because by committing to this, you are committing to not do that.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be scary. So it's really getting towards what I need to do to be the man that I know I can be. And that is sometimes scary.
The sacrifices that are required for success.
Correct. And those aren't pretty.
No.
Those aren't pretty at all. And that's always something that I consistently fight with and balance. And I want to be kind to myself about too.
Yeah.
But to do the Seinfeld thing, it's probably best to just write off one motion with a Band-Aid.
Yeah, but at the same time,
It's
like,
tough.
I get it. Like it's a challenge that I'm gonna, my brother was a founder. Like I'm gonna give up 7 years of my life socially so I can build a company. I'm like, if you were sold, you will take 7 years of your life. You'd say, no way, I need more than that. And so you kind of fall into those trade-offs that I think is easier.
Yeah,
Like
I think, but perhaps though, not falling into them and saying this is what I'm going to do may empower more because you're clinging to like, no, maybe I can.
True.
Maybe again, I don't have the answer.
Well,
but that's kind of a fear of mine.
No, I agree, but that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's yours?
I think there's two. I think one is general loneliness.
What does that mean to you?
Being at a place where I need help and there's nobody there to help me.
Does it help with a specific type of thing?
No, it's like the sense of being left alone and having no agency because I can't ask anybody to help. I think that's one. It's like,
yeah, I felt what that feels like. Doesn't feel good.
I feel unlimitlessly powered when I just know I can always ask for help.
Yeah.
That's one. The other is not living up to some of those big dreams I have. And in a way, like not being true to that desire.
Yeah, sure.
Like
it's heavy, man.
Yeah, like if I say I want to build a company, I want to run a marathon, and just never doing it and say, why did I not? And not allowing myself to make the sacrifices. I sometimes have not engaged in things enough because I'm afraid of giving up my entirety of my agency with my time.
Yeah, man, it's really hard.
So those are my two biggest fears. Ironically, though, theoretically, both of them could help each other. If I'm not alone, then I can probably accomplish those things I want to do because I'll have help.
Sure.
So I kind of solve both of them by building community. Because they literally help me not be alone and not ask for help and not get it. And also it allows me to accomplish those bigger goals. If I'm training for marathon, I started a running group with all the members of the community. If I want
BC Fit, is it?
Oh no, that's really Ventures, but I'm also doing just a running, an OMED running group. I do a lot of things. But I know I'm accountable if I have a running group.
Yes, accountability.
Hey, there you go.
Accountability. That's a huge, I've always appreciated it, but I think more as I get into my own entrepreneurial journey, freelance journey, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And working from different places in the world where I don't necessarily know people, it's profoundly important to have accountability and have things that make you feel at home and to be able to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially nowadays, in the climate we're in and with how connected people are on Facebook, but not as connected in real life, it's even scarier to ask for help because everybody's just showing the brightest, shiniest version of themselves. And that in itself is kind of scary because it makes people more afraid to ask for help.
Because they don't want to be the exception.
Correct.
Alrighty then.
So we talked about biggest fears. What are you most excited about right now?
Shit, I'm excited to see what my story is going to be at the end of this next year.
Yeah?
Like,
Same.
Yeah, like, it's been picking up exponentially. Like, I thought 2015 was a big year of growth. I thought 2016 was a big year of growth.
Certainly was. Both of them were.
I thought 2017 was a big year of growth. I thought 2018 was a big year of growth. I thought 2019 was a big year of growth. I'm like, oh, holy shit, 2020 might be even more.
Of course it will.
But I'm just amazed. Like, I'm just excited to see it all. Like, I think there's a good chance I'll meet 3 of the 4. I made a promise to Matt Kaliski, a friend of ours, that I had 4 goals at the beginning of this year, and I was going to meet 3 of them. I've definitely met 1. It's looking good. I'll meet 2. The 3rd one is under my control. 1 I probably won't just because I didn't give a shit enough about it. And I'm planning on setting 6 goals for next year and meeting all 6.
How do you set goals?
I think about what's something that really means something to me that I'm going to be glad that I did it. Not what I feel like I should, but I want to run a marathon. And I'm going to. It has to be something that feels like it resonates true. One of the biggest things I've seen people mess up on is a friend of mine, Brian Van Enken, wrote an article about this. He said, living the should life. So, what are the decisions that we make that are should? And the things that you rationalize, saying, oh, I should do this because I've been and all that, like this, that, and the third, as opposed to saying, I just want to do it because I want to do it. And when it resonates true. For you, it might be, recording an album. It might be traveling to new countries. It might just be continuing to do what you enjoy. It might just be spending time with Mark. But the things.
I spent too much time with Mark, though, so it's definitely not that.
Letting Mark spend time with others.
There you go. Go see other people, Mark.
Sorry, Mark. You've met your Mark. But if when something is true, because it's going to resonate with you in a way that doesn't resonate with others, or that other things won't resonate with you.
Do you have these things kind of set out, or do you sit down and say, all right, what do I want to do? Or do you kind of let it come to you?
Well, I have 2 things. I think one is for the last year, I've started to choose a theme for the year. So my theme for 2019 was bold. When I had options, what was the bold choice that I could make? It meant kicking out a former roommate that I was not getting along with and going against that. It meant asking for help. It meant doing things that I normally wouldn't allow myself to do. It meant climbing rusty satellite dishes in Trinidad and Tobago. And it meant...
For what purpose?
Just because it was bold.
Okay.
I was like, that seems like a challenge.
Gloves or not gloves?
No gloves.
Oh.
Yeah, it was tough.
Hashtag tetanus.
Yeah. But it was what it was. And so the next year what I want to do is, I've done a lot of bold. I push myself beyond belief. I've written nearly 150 newsletters. I will have hosted 138 events. I will have traveled to 2 other countries. I will have done things I wouldn't have expected. And now, so my theme going into next year is, I think it's going to be sustainably scaling. So I want to continue being bold, but I want to say, what are the systems I can set up that I can live this life continuously and grow from it? I think I need to set up systems because I'm at, that peak bandwidth.
Yeah, systems are how you really start to scale things for sure.
Yeah, it's like sustainability and health. Like, what are the things I can do that will continue going forward? So that's one. So I sort of set a theme of the year, what it feels right. And then I sort of pick goals and I say, what are things that I just really want to be able to focus on? The thing you don't give yourself enough time for.
Yeah.
So it's not, I want to make XYZ money my job. Like, you're going to do that.
It's a hollow thing anyway.
Yeah, what are the extra things that if you gave yourself time and just said, pick a new thing you want to do? What's that? And so I say, it stands out. It's not the thing you dedicate all your time to. It resonates with the theme that I have. And I say, that feels true. I really would like to be able to touch my toes, straight-legged. And so that's just the goal. It felt true to me as soon as I said it. I was like, yep, I'm doing that.
And that's going forward for the rest of your...
Yeah.
Goal setting is a difficult thing sometimes. I like to... Like, when I get really, really... Like, I need, like, that pressure element sometimes of being like, yo, I just got to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, so... Like, I play the piano every morning. I have a couple of pieces that I want to have done.
Yeah.
By Christmas, I want to play it for my family and like surprise them or whatever. I have like gym goals and stuff like that. And I outsource as much of it as I can. So like I have a personal trainer who's like wrote out workouts for me, and I don't have to think about it. And I update the spreadsheet every week, and I have a diet and I have all this other stuff, which is huge. I just don't have to think.
Yeah.
So if you have a goal, I think it's really important to pass that off to someone who's an expert at doing it. That's where I've scaled my own like mindset, where it's like, this sucks, but if I just get up and get my feet on the ground and put my clothes on, make my shake and go over there, I don't have to think about what to do except one rep at a time.
Yeah.
So anything that I am concentrating on, I do my best to break it into very small steps so that I can feel like I'm making progress. Like I made a video on this. I called it like the coffee framework. So make coffee, crush your goals.
Okay.
So
as a non-coffee drinker, tell me.
Sure, but I don't really drink a lot of coffee, but it was something I think a lot of people can understand. So you want to make a cup of coffee. That's the outcome you want. But you have to start with coffee grounds or pods or whatever. Like if you don't have any coffee or pods, then you need to get pods. So that's step one. Get pods. Get coffee. Do you like ground coffee? Do you want beans that you want to grind yourself? Those are individual steps. Then do you have a French press? Do you have a coffee maker? Right? Like how much time that adds to it. So you see all these steps because you've made coffee before. What is the way that you can do that for your goal? Work backwards. Hot cup of coffee or iced coffee, whatever it is, work backwards from all those small pieces, and now you have some progress you can make and you can measure.
Yeah.
And then with the urgency side of it, if you're making it before work, tea, whatever, that's your time frame. That's how quickly you need to accomplish it. So that's one of the ways I do it. I set generally goals around personal, professional, and family. So my parents are basically retired.
How old?
My father will be 75 next year.
Okay.
My mother is, I won't tell her age, but she's younger than my dad. So they're a little older, and I'm very conscious of where they are, and they've done so much for my brothers and I and me rather, my brothers and me, that I just really want to make sure they're well taken care of, and we spend as much time together. We're going to Mexico for Thanksgiving together. I'm really excited about that. But I always set goals to where I can have some type of system in place that I don't have to worry about them. It's always something that's in my mind. If you remember from vulnerability dinner, it's like, I want to make sure they're okay. And maybe I'm a little too much on that side in some ways, but that's really important.
That's not a too much I think you can regret.
No, and I won't, right? But again, sometimes it takes me away from doing other things where I should be a little more selfish.
Yeah.
So I set those 3 parameters, and then I have like this sheet that I downloaded that like helps you break out what those are. And some of them are like close, other ones aren't as close. Like I always want to read 24 books a year. I'm drastically behind. I'm at like 19 this year, and I have a month.
Do you have a minimum requirement for the length of the book?
No, but again, like I still have to read 5 more books in a month, which I probably could.
You could definitely pick some 5 books that are like one-day readers.
But again, like those are things. So I like measurable goals as well. But always looking for good. I like the theme thing. I'm probably going to adopt that.
I've learned it's super helpful, just because like
it's on brand. Everything. Store's a thing.
And you'll have other things, you'll have other priorities, but just saying, it gives you a truth to guide your decisions.
I like that. I really, really like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Finishing up here, what would you say is your advice for any person, entrepreneur, individual, freelancer, or otherwise, if they want to build effective communities from absolutely nothing, starting today?
Don't just think of community as a gathering of people. Think of a community as a solution to a problem. If your community doesn't solve a problem for a specific set of people in a way they can't find other places, it might not be effective. It has to be different, it has to be helpful, and it has to be dramatically helpful in a remarkable way.
And what are some ways that others can put those types of missions out?
Figuring out what's missing. Looking at it just like an entrepreneur would look at a problem. Why is that software program really slow? Okay, why are people not talking about this thing? Or think about just the things that don't happen faster. Why can't this person find someone to hire? Why can't this person find sales? Are there communities to build for talent pools? Are there communities to build for enabling sales conversations more effectively? Why can't people learn how to be a freelancer faster? Okay. And then it's thinking about also, is community the best form?
Sure.
I could do a community for founders that want to fundraise, which I might actually, but there also could be a tech stack or a tech platform that you do that's even faster. So saying, is there something about a person-to-person interaction or a network effect, not network, I hate that word, a community effect.
That's the title of your book.
Community effect.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Working title.
Working title. We'll keep it heard it here first. That allows you to do something better than another technology. And it has to be true for you. You have to give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be something that you enjoy doing, because your joy will come through how you live that community. If you're building a community for a large startup that's trying to get, like if you're building a Lyft community, it's really just to get customers for Lyft.
It's hollow.
It's hollow.
Yeah.
But if you say Lyft cares about social causes and we genuinely want to help, and you allow people to interact with that, that's different. It's got to be true for you. It's got to be fun for you. And it's got to be something that is different, valuable, and unique for the people that are involved. And it makes them better. And don't do all the fireside chats and panels. Some people do them. Don't do that only. It gets really boring. Do a debate. Do something.
Do a debate. I like. There's not enough debates going around.
No, I want to see some debates.
I want to see some debates. So how can people help you?
My hardest to answer question.
Okay. Why is that a hard question for you to answer?
Because I hate asking for stuff. And it's not because I don't think people can help. It's just it's a insecurity. It's that whole thing, like setting myself up to have people say no, or just asking too much and therefore I can't rely on it in the future. What I would love is if people have, there's so many things I can ask. If people have systems for effectively answering email faster, or for setting up some way that email is no longer inundating their life. I like helping people, but I'm sick of answering ridiculously long
I have an
emails.
answer for you.
Yeah?
Get a virtual assistant.
Well, not any money to do it for you. Virtual assistant.
Sure, it doesn't have to be as expensive as you
actually,
think.
here's how you can help me. To solve that problem, to give me more time to not answer emails, to have agency to build the fun things in life, I am potentially going to be starting a mastermind teaching people in depth the strategies that I have here and going in and helping them out. So if people know of corporations or companies or individual organizations that are looking to build better communities and ecosystems and they want to learn from the ground level, how do you do that effectively and get coaching? I'm going to be starting I personally don't like the word masterminding. It seems highfalutin. But it's like I'm going to start a cohort of people that I'm going to be training over the next year that I've done consulting on this before. Allow them. So if you know somebody who needs help building community saying we can't figure it out, happy to help people
He's your
out.
man. So your info is going to be down below in whatever format we
here.
put this out. So today we covered effective ways to build communities quickly, scalably, and most importantly, remarkably. We've covered some of our biggest fears. We've covered, I don't know, jump in with me here.
We covered how to continue a community, what needs to be true about a community, remembering people's names, how to make things stand out, how to learn what the needs are from the community itself.
Asking questions, being real, authentic to start with.
Taking off the facades.
Taking the facades off, and really having fun and setting goals that are not finite.
The process.
The process, and loving the process. So hopefully this was valuable to you. Thank you for watching, listening, reading, whichever way you did it. And dude, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for sharing what you have.
Thank you for letting me share.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Likes, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Booyakasha. Say something, Mike.
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
Dee 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 dee.